So I'm just rereading this beautiful book called The Renewal of Generosity by Arthur W. Frank. He's a wonderful sociologist, I guess, of illness narrative, and he talks about consolation and how we need to be consoled when we are ill and or when we are dying. And that consolation is something that is conveyed through story. How do we teach each other to console? And is it something that we can expect is just natural in everybody's capacity? And I'm a bit skeptical about that. I think we have to learn it like we have to learn so many other things. And so there are stories that teach us how consolation happened before we came along. There's how we understand our own experience. We might have been consoled by somebody when we lost something as a child, but we didn't think of that as consolation until we reflect on it, or we tell the story of that moment over and over again. And then I find myself in a situation where somebody is suffering a loss similar to the one I thought, and it's just like, oh, I suffered something like that, and this is how I dealt with it. And now I offer it to you as something that might help you deal with this. Or maybe I don't even tell the story to the other person. Maybe I just tell it to myself. And this is what happened to me, and now I can see in myself that I have the capacity to sit with somebody who is suffering and maybe just be there in their presence. So stories teach us those moments. They carry us across those transitions, and they remind us of our histories and hold us together as cultures. And in a sense, I think that there is perhaps no such thing as a human being outside of the stories that we tell to be able to contain the idea of what a human being is. So stories are that fundamental to how we organize ourselves, that they address all the moments of our life, all the transitions, all the losses and joys and suffering that we find within literature and oral traditions. Stories that inform all those moments and how to dispose oneself to all those moments is not surprising, because without story, in a sense, those moments wouldn't even exist. They would just be, I don't know, so much stuff. It's only when we take up the stuff of our experience and we put it together in a narrative that, in a sense, it becomes real and becomes communicable and becomes something that we can process and reflect upon. So experience and the words that name that experience perhaps co-create each other. And that's perhaps what's most true about stories. Ourselves as beings is co-created with the stories that we use to communicate who we are anyway. And by the who, I'm referring simultaneously to the individual participant as well as the collective participant, members of groups and cultures. We do this at the individual level and at the group level.